I'm Indra.
And I'm Amanda.
And we'd like to welcome you to The Messy Middle Matters. Hey, Amanda, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm good. I know we decided that this episode was about context, but what did you mean by that?
What did you mean by that, Indra?
Right? Can I tell you, the amount of times that Amanda and I are having a prep call. So we have prep calls on different days than we do our recording days. And on our prep calls, it's like, okay, our next topic is going to be X. And then we start talking about, I'm like, wait, hold on.
Like we both know what this word means, but we both go a slightly different direction.
Different facets of it, facets of what that word means. And, I think that that's what's important in all of this is like, and that's why we have this episode is like the importance and value of asking clarifying questions because we know each other, we understand each other, we have very similar working styles, very similar backgrounds, but even with us, like on a regular basis,
a regular basis, like every few weeks.
consistent. We are consistent. But yeah, it happens all the time. Happens all the damn time.
Yeah. And I think that's really what we want to talk about, right? Like just what kinds of questions should you ask to ensure that everyone's on the same page about what we're supposed to do next, what we're aiming toward, like whatever the goal of this conversation is, let's ensure that we're on the same page before we start.
100%. And I think that, the thing that comes to mind actually for me is the word design. So I'm going to rewind. I'm going to rewind the hands of time. I spent 7 years at TD Ameritrade, so I got a lot of reference points from there. So forgive me, folks, but it's where, I remember when we were bringing in Agile, the time that it was successful because, anyone who's been on an Agile journey, Agile is a program management methodology. There was a successful time. And we were doing every single time we would do backlog grooming, which is an activity to figure out what work you're going to be doing for the next period of time. Somebody would say, we need to do the design of it. I'm like, what design? What design? We need to add qualifiers, clarifiers, whatever it is. Like, are you talking about architectural design? Are you talking about logical design? Are you talking about the, just the business design of it? Are you talking about the UX design? Are you talking about the UI design? Like, this is jargon soup for a lot of people if you're not in that particular space. But the whole point of it is that, within every sub team, everyone could maybe understand, like when you're talking about the design, if you're exposed to the project, if you're exposed to the process, if you're exposed to everything, you know what the word design means. But, in that particular context, but if you put it on a board and other people start to see it, they may not understand what that is. And, that's where in Agile, there is this whole idea of shared understanding and like being a little bit more explicit around things. But design is one of my little bugaboos in my life, regardless of whether I've supported an engineering team or a design team or a product team. I'm like, you need to tell me what kind of design we're talking about here.
What's really funny is when you said design, I was like, what do you mean by design? Is it UX? Is it UI? Is it like actual like design of a page or is it architecture? Is it design of a document? Is it design of a process? Like design of what?
Design of what? Marketing design. Could be anything.
You can design anything. You could design anything. And anyone who sees the word design, like you go into, your weekly status update call with a cross-functional team and you're like, okay, this week we're working on design.
And there's a guest there and it's an executive who knows nothing about the day-to-day. They're like, oh, they're doing the design. Fantastic. When will I see that? And you say, oh, it'll be ready next week. And you have not clarified what does that executive mean by design, because I bet my bottom dollar that the odds are against you that you have the same thing in mind.
Right.
Bottom dollar.
Yeah, it's the what do you mean by that? Or of what? I think those are our two like go-to clarifying questions, you and I.
I think you're right. It's so funny because as I'm looking at the transcripts from any of our past episodes, like we have certain word patterns that you and I both have. And that's exactly it. That's some of them. That's some of them. But, I think that, when you're looking for, let's just, we're riffing on design. So let's go with that one. Like when you're trying to understand what the person means by design, asking them in a way that won't make them freak out is really an art and a skill unto itself. Like it seems like such a innocuous question, but if you don't ask it in the right tone, in the right way, with the right intention, it could actually derail the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I feel like more than two things, but two things can happen, right? Like one, you ask the question and you make them feel like they didn't explain it properly. Like you make them feel dumb, for lack of better word, right?
Yeah.
Or the opposite can happen. You ask the question and you make them think that you're dumb. And like, you don't want that either. And so you're right. There is an art, there is a balance, there is a way to ask these questions that are just neutral and like, tell me more about that.
Right. I think you used one of them actually in the intro of this, right? It's I know what that word means for me. I just want to make sure I'm 100% clear because I want to deliver on the thing that you're expecting me to deliver on. Can you just make sure and tell me what the definition of that is? Like, and they'll be like, it's blah, blah, blah. And what inevitably happens is that, let's assume there's a third person in that conversation. The third person says, oh, I was thinking it meant something altogether different. So now you have three different understandings of the word design.
Right. And so as you were saying that, it just reminded me because we love a good metaphor, right?
Oh, we do.
So you're at a restaurant and you tell the server, this is what I want, right? Here are the four things that I want for dinner. And the server repeats back to you, hey, you wanted this, 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 and this. Is it cool if I course it out? Do you want them all at once? And it's sitting in that server mentality of just like, I heard the thing. Let me just make sure I understand the thing and maybe ask a few more questions to make sure that I'm going to deliver the thing that you are expecting.
Right. And what that also does is because guess what? We're all human beings and we can make mistakes. And sometimes the words that come out of our mouth are not the ones that we think we said. What that does is it invites the opportunity for there to be a correction, right? Like, oh, yeah, no, I know I said that, like, I'm sure that I said that I wanted cola, but what I really wanted was ginger ale. I'm so sorry I said that. And you get to make that correction. Like everybody gets to say, I think it's about saving face too, right? Like, cause nobody wants to feel foolish. Nobody wants to feel foolish.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and because we're all human, right? Like sometimes we do change our minds, right? I'm just thinking about all the times that I'm at a restaurant, back to the server the restaurant metaphor, right? All of the times I'm at a restaurant, I order first. And, whoever I'm eating with, order something. I'm like, oh, I want that side instead.
Exactly.
And
then
then the server has an opportunity to be like, okay, just so we're all clear, like this is what you all wanted, right? Let me repeat that back to you.
Yeah. And I think a different version I think the workplace version of repeating it back is writing it down.
Yeah. Yes. Writing it down.
Write
And
it
so
down.
what I like to do during meetings is if I'm the designated note taker, right? Usually if I'm the one running the meeting, I will open up a notes doc and I will share my screen and I will give everyone the opportunity to see what I am writing down. And just give everyone that opportunity to react to it or correct it or just like, hey, Amanda, like actually what I said and what you wrote down, not the same.
Cool. Yeah. And I'm so thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I wrote it down then. Right.
Right.
And I think you set up one scenario and I know that, who should take notes and why they should take notes is probably a topic of its own. And it's its own episode. But if you are in a position where you don't want to be the official note taker, or you're not the official note taker, or no one's taking notes or whatever it might be, Like if I'm find myself in those scenarios, what I'll often say is, hey guys, you guys know that I just love to write things down for myself. I just want to make sure that what I'm taking for myself or what I'm sketching on this whiteboard or what I'm doing is what you guys have in mind. Just make sure that my work is right. you know
Right.
and I'll share my screen or I'll get up to the whiteboard and I'll literally write on the whiteboard what I'm thinking. And that's the opportunity to be there. And I often in these scenarios, my approach, for better or worse, sometimes there's pros and cons to it, is a very like, hey, it's just me, like I'm just trying to do this, a very self-deprecating, which again has got a downside to it. But the upside of it is like, hey, it softens the blow. It lets everybody react to it. And I think that also the reason that I often do find myself being the person writing things down, it goes back to something that you said earlier. People are afraid of being wrong, and when you write it down, and they're the ones doing the writing or the typing or the whatever, and people are judging their spelling or their handwriting or whatever. If you can take that, if you're in a position to take that and just like, hey, let me write it down for you. Like,
Right.
let me do this. Like, I'm going to do you the favor so that it doesn't become an expectation. Right. But like, let me do everybody a favor. I'm going to write this down.
Yeah. And I think that opens the opportunity, like it opens the door for collaboration
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
shared understanding.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
It
Oh,
gives something for people to react to.
and it strangely, it focuses the darn conversation too. Because
Mhm.
when there is a literal focus of the vision, people tend to stay on topic more and you tend to get to decisions more quickly.
Yeah. And I think, and we might have talked about this in our
Hmm.
Words Matter episode, right? But I think it's important to start off with that shared understanding.
Hmm.
Otherwise, that divergence in understanding can snowball.
Better to
As
catch
the
it soon.
conversation goes
Yeah.
on, if you're, let's go back to the word design. If there's three people in the room and they all three of them have a different understanding of what we mean by design, the context of the rest of the conversation changes.
I think what I'm going to add to show notes is the Jeff Patton photos from Agile. He's one of the famous Agile trainers that's out there. He's got this photo of different people having different things in their thought bubbles. They write it down and they come to a conclusion of what it should be, because it is important. Like you're minimizing your risk. You're minimizing your risk and your waste if you do that sooner rather than later. So
Yeah, totally.
and I'd say the last thing that I think that like why people also love keeping things like verbal is two things. Like but they're both rooted in a fear of commitment. Like they want to be able to change their mind. And let me just like, if you don't write it down, then like I can tell you, like whether they're conscious of it or not. Like I can tell you tomorrow that I actually didn't ask for that. Like, no, I wrote it down. We all saw it.
Right.
And it lets you move forward. But at the end of the day, it all starts with just like asking for clarity, asking for things in a really skillful way. I mean, I've shared some of my tools and tactics. Amanda's shared some of hers, but you need to find your own path towards asking those questions and getting the answers that are out there. Like experiment with it.
Yeah. Just going back to your self-deprecation as a strategy, I'm I'm a bit of the same way of just
Mhm.
like, you know what? I'm just going to assume that I am not the smartest person in this room. I'm going to raise my hand and I'm going to ask, what do you mean by that, Indra? Because like I don't quite understand. Can you explain that to me in different words? Just so that I'm on the same page as you.
And then what inevitably happens is someone else in the room over like chat message, whether you're using Slack or something else, is, oh my God, I was wondering the same thing, but I was afraid to ask. Like, you're welcome. You're welcome. You can always count on me for that. You're welcome.
Right. Of just like, I'm going to pretend that I don't know what we're talking about here. I'm pretty sure your definition of design here in this context is, the design of, we'll call it the web page.
Sure.
But could it mean the design of the architecture? There's an engineer here, so they might they might interpret it as that. But
Mm,
just so we're all on the same page, Indra, what do you mean by that?
database design, something altogether different. What?
Yeah.
Not an architecture design, a database. But I'd say the other thing, not everyone has, and not every scenario will afford itself to everyone being able to ask those clarifying questions. So, like a few tools and tips for if you are in that power dynamic where you can't, or it's in that situation where it's not graceful for you to be able to ask the question. I'd say, two things come to mind. One is, hey, message your friend who does have that situational power or ability to ask the question on your behalf, or they might be able to answer for you. Hey, they mean blah, blah, blah. I'll just say it out loud so everyone can say, okay, so great. We have this defined for the database design. What are we doing for the whatever? And that's actually another way to ask the question without, asking the questions. Just make an explicit answer. Be like, okay, great. I heard you. And then what I heard is we're doing database design. You just use the word design, but I heard database design. That's one way. Find a friend who can say it. Or actually in some scenarios, you may not be able to ask that question in that room. Like I'm thinking of let's say you're in a town hall and, your CEO is saying something, you're like, what are they talking about? Or, like, I have no idea. Keep it to yourself and then have a conversation on the side afterwards to get that clarification. If there needs to be a correction that's made afterwards because the CEO misspoke, or that can be made. Or if after having that side conversation, let's say the comms person for that organization said communications person for that organization said, oh, I can see how people get confused, I'll include that in the meeting recap. Right. There's other ways like that are not in the moment. I don't know if anything comes to mind for you.
As you were going through those things, what came to mind for me was, if you're in a meeting, I think setting the ground rules of the meeting would be helpful, right? Like if you're the one running the meeting, or if you know someone, if you know the person running the meeting, right? The person setting the stage, maybe just, hey, Indra, like you're running this meeting. Could you explicitly say, like, if there are questions that come up along the way, like please raise your hand and we'll address them. Or you could just say, if there are questions along the way, like keep them for the end, right? But just like setting those rules for how to ask those questions, and like creating that space to ask those questions.
I think the creation of the space, I think, is the best, the most important thing of all the things you said are great. I think that the creation of space for the invitation for questions, I think, is really important. It also democratizes things. It also gives everybody a chance to express themselves, and, don't worry about, like, I think that some people might hear that like, oh my gosh, this person X, Y, and Z is always asking questions, or oh my gosh, I'm afraid that my intern is going to ask an inappropriate question, or oh my gosh, like there's so many different, scenarios. Like there, you can handle those in a different way with different tools and tactics. And if that's something that our listeners really want to listen to, as a topic, let us know through our feedback form, the messymiddlematters.com/feedback. Let us know if that's something to explore. But, that's not just because fear should not stop you from creating that invitation. There are tools, strategies, techniques to keep it from being a dumping ground of inappropriate questions, conversation, noise, whatever it might be. So,
right. And I mean, we don't have to get into it, but the most simple is like, well, let's table that.
Let's table it. Oh, I love a parking lot. Yes.
I love a parking lot. Yeah.
Parking lot, for those listening who are not familiar, is literally a piece of paper on the wall or a notes document of a bulleted list of the things that somebody brought up, but we're literally not talking about right now. And I think actually that might be a good topic, is parking lots and the value of them. But anyway. Yeah. Any other final closing thoughts or things that we haven't explored, Amanda, that you wanted to make sure we got to?
Not a closing thought, but just the thought of like when you said, I'm afraid that so-and-so is going to ask so many questions. I had to stop myself from laughing, because anyone who's ever worked with me knows that I ask so many questions. So yes, create the space to ask questions for people like me.
Create the space. Create the space. So thank you so much again for being my partner in this. And thank you to everyone for listening. We look forward to you joining us next time when we discuss another topic for the messy middle. Bye, everyone.
Bye.